So Dan, you're launching a new book today. Congratulations, and it's entitled "Holy Shift: Moving Your Company Forward to the Future of Work." Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I guess the most important thing is that this is a topic that affects every single person listening. So the changes in the workplace over the last few years have been chaotic for all of us. But when it comes to the CEO or leader lens, the big three that they're concerned about when it comes to their team and their company culture are really employee productivity, engagement, and retention. And the headlines, it's like every single day that we're seeing are how leaders are really struggling to solve these problems. They haven't cracked the code. So the reason I call this book Holy Shift is to really shout out that the size and scale of this challenge is just massive. We're living through the single biggest and fastest change in how we work in human history. And the headline here is really the first time in history that work is just not simply defined as a time or place for the majority of people in the world. And what we're seeing is that it's taking its toll. Many people have lost their sense of purpose and pride, as well as community and connection that really come from work. And you're seeing more of just a transactional and transitional mentality when it comes to work. The quote, I think many have heard from Peter Drucker, is culture eats strategy for breakfast. Well, over the last few years, it's really eaten it for lunch and dinner as well. And there's just this major erosion of trust between those who run companies and those who work for them. So there's an opportunity here, really. You can look at it as a problem, but it's really an opportunity. And this book is really an attempt to give any leader, CEO, manager, or board member a common sense, data-driven strategy and a playbook with ideas that they can deploy right now to make a difference with their company.
What propelled you to write this book? What sort of experiences did you have that led you to write this?
Yeah, it was really a lived experience, Janet. So I, like many CEOs and leaders, I was looking for an answer on the future of work and to the problems that we're all seeing and feeling right now. So I dove deep, and all I found were pretty much tactical solutions on how to bring people back to work. And what I was really looking forward was more of a playbook on how to bring people forward to the future. So, that was sort of my inspiration. And I have two kids in their 20s who are entering the workforce. So I figured, if I was feeling the problem, maybe it wasn't just me, and maybe it was time to help.
So you outline 3 steps in your book to achieve this sort of transformation of moving your company forward. Step 1 is see the shift. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, so just for a little bit of context here, I spent over a decade as a CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer for a public company. So we grew it from about 50 people to 5,000 people. And then for the last decade, I was the CEO of a private company that we grew from roughly 50 people to about 500. So the center of the growth strategy in both of those companies was really around experience, both with customers and employees. That's really how we built those companies. So the shift that's going on right now, step 1 is we got to recognize the problems that have happened. The second step is really we've got to shift our mindset, and we've got to think about these problems differently. And the third shift is we've got to make shift happen. So we've got to think about things differently and deploy different strategies.
What sort of struggles are you seeing for leaders? Where do you see leaders have these difficulties, and what's your advice for them?
Well, in many ways, what's happened with company culture is it's been delegated to HR. So instead of HR leading it, really what we need to shift now to is leaders leading it, and with HR as a partner. So in the book, what I outline is there's really 4 things that correlate directly to being able to move forward from here. So these are things that directly correlate to employee productivity, engagement, and retention. Whether you're looking at McKinsey data, Gallup data, or our data, you'll find direct correlations between these 4. And the first one is really driving a sense of community, so feeling a sense of belonging. The third one is creating an opportunity, so ensuring people feel excitement about the future. The third one is relationships. There's a huge correlation between trusted relationships and retention, and on the flip side, attrition. And then lastly, experiences, getting tangible experiences that help people grow, making sure that they're not stagnant, that they're in motion. So that acronym is CORE: community, opportunities, relationships, and experiences. And what CEOs and leaders have gotten wrong is that they're focused on the macro when they should be focused on the micro. Really, my experience at a company is me and the people around me. If I work at a company with 5,000 people, I'm not interacting with or engaged with or friends with 5,000 or 500 or maybe even 50 people, but those 5 people around me, the core group around me, really matters.
Talk to us about where you see the greatest opportunity for leaders right now in the current economic environment, because it is one that is somewhat challenging. We've had a couple of years in which hiring has been historically difficult. That's shifting now. Cost of capital is now starting to becoming a little bit more of an issue. What is your advice in the current economic climate for leaders?
Well, I think the best approach is a contrarian approach. So what's happened is we've had this, pendulum swing where in the beginning of 2022, we had the Great Resignation. 1 year later, people were letting go of 10 or 20% of their team. So that switch or that pivot or that shift from, maybe the employee having the power to the leaders or the managers or the CEOs having the power, that will continue to swing back and forth. So the big opportunity for leaders right now is to really differentiate based on their company culture, because it's something that every company is struggling with. So there's an opportunity to really embrace it and turn it into a feature versus a flaw, which is what's happening with many companies.
Dan, in our last minute or so, what excites you most about the book?
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that we've treated culture to some extent as a tactic. We really haven't given a strategic framework to this approach in the past. So really, as somebody who's been involved at that level of companies, and seen people maybe do this poorly versus do this well, what I was looking for is, hey, what's that universal truth? So what are the things that we could definitely depend on that are really going to make a difference for people? So bringing a common sense, data-driven approach to culture really hasn't been done, at least that I've been able to find out or discover. So as people look at this book and the feedback that I've gotten from people is, hey, this is the one book, if you're going to add one book to a leader, a manager, a board, to crack this code, this is it. And so that's what excites me the most, is that kind of feedback.
Dan, if you could tell us again the name of the book, where we can buy it.
Yeah, it's called Holy Shift, Moving Your Company Forward to the Future of Work. And you can find it on any bookstore, or you can go to theholyshiftbook.com and you can check out our company at incommon.com.
And Dan, where can we follow you on social media?
Just on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty quiet when it comes to social media, but you can find me on LinkedIn.
All right, Dan, pleasure to have you join us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the time, Janet. Really appreciate it.
Dan Michelson is founder and CEO of InCommon, and today he's launching his new book, Holy Shift,